Phil and Rye right back here with you. Listen up, Ryan, Friday the 14th of April. We have some pretty exciting events coming up. First of all, I want to shout out to you a late happy birthday. Everybody, do me a favor. The person I'm sitting, I don't know if you're this way, Ryan, or that way, but the person I am sitting beside, which is Ryan right here, wish him a happy birthday, Ryan. It was April the 12th. So congratulations on officially getting out of your teen years.
Thank
I know
you.
I called you the other day and asked you if you had to get like a walker or a cane to get out of bed. You said not yet, but you said that it's coming right around the corner after all the stuff that you have to deal with, huh? Because you you work hard and we do appreciate it. I know that I do. Listen, I know you called me the other day and you was like, man, Phil, very hyped up, very excited. And I thought you had some UConn news, but no, it's actually you're like the school semester is coming to an end. And I'm like, oh man, I know that you can't wait for that, Ryan, because let me tell you something special about summer, man. And it's that much closer to the off season being over and we see Huskies basketball again in November. But in today's podcast, today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the most exciting things happened almost a year ago. That was Lou Lopez Seneschal coming into UConn. So now we're hoping we get the same news within the next couple of weeks, Ryan, as we're right around the corner from transfer portal announcements. We're going to go over in this episode some players that we think might make a good fit in this UConn Huskies roster coming up for 23 and 24. Ryan, I know you told me, so they lost two is obviously too much, in my opinion, even one. They lost Dorka Uhas, two big players, two big names, and then Lou Lopez Seneschal. What's your take on that? Even though we'll get into comments later on. What's your take on that? And I guess you can start off. What players do you feel like? I know you told me not a guard, Phil, probably a center or forward.
Right.
Definitely, I saw a lot of comments, Ryan, and a lot of intake on, hey, they need to fill the shoes of Dorka Uhas big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not hard to do. And I know last year, definitely me and you weren't expecting Lou Lopez Seneschal to come to UConn. And, it's hard to just predict somebody's impact like that when you're talking about the transfer portal. But it has been pretty crazy so far. Just this season, right after the previous season ended, already had some pretty crazy things happen. Shocking news about players that are entering the portal, including Haley Van Leith, Nisa Morrow, Lauren Park Lane is also one of them. Couple big East players.
Wow.
And Lauren Betts is notably probably the most shocking in my opinion. But Haley Van Leith has spent 4 seasons at Louisville, had quite the collegiate career, I'd say, so far. Enters the portal as a graduate student, and wherever she decides to go, Van Leith, I'm sure will make an immediate impact wherever she goes. Anissa Morrow is also a pretty interesting name. She's only a junior, averaged a double-double in her first 2 seasons at DePaul, led the Big East in rebounding, second in scoring to Maddie Siegrist, of course. But again, same as Haley Van Leith, wherever Morrow goes, I'm sure she'll also make an immediate impact. And if UConn does somehow manage to get Anissa Morrow, that would be absolutely.
Can you imagine, especially with
incredible.
Aaliyah Boston going out of South Carolina? That opens the door wide open. I know not only me, but for you too. I know for a fact we would already be talking championship atmosphere in March of 22, or actually April of 2024.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of teams are going to be calling Anissa Morrow and asking her to come to their school because she is quite the talent. And the third player I want to touch on a little bit more is Lauren Betts, of course, the number 1 recruit from a year ago, decides to enter the portal after only 1 year at Stanford. She's listed at 6'7". I was watching a couple highlights. She's an absolute force inside the paint when she did play this past season. UConn is one of the schools Betts did consider before choosing the Cardinal. So, can you just imagine if Gino and UConn scouts of the recruiting team managed to get Betts in a UConn jersey for the next 3 years? That would be absolutely insane. And the upcoming season, having 6'7" Lauren Betts and 6'3" Aaliyah Edwards alongside the sharpshooters Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd. That would be pretty amazing. But I did see also where Gribble mentioned the UConn recruiting Sedona Prince after she entered the transfer portal, undeclared for the draft. But I did see where she actually committed to TCU. So that name, unfortunately, is off the board for
And
UConn to
who was that again?
possibly consider. That was Sedona Prince.
Okay, Sedona Prince.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
she was another 6'7" center, I believe. So that would have been another definite possibility. But a couple other names I looked at as well. Caitlin Davis, 6'1" graduate from Columbia. I definitely think, it'd probably be best if UConn could get a graduate student or a center just for 1 year to fill in for, of course, Dorka Juhas. Just a big body inside the paint for a year, possibly to let Alfie to develop down there, and also Ice Brady as well.
Yeah, so I was looking at a couple. I'm like you, obviously center or a forward. You always want to go with the top names. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But obviously, talk about luck. I mean, we figured last season when Lou Lopez Seneschal came in that obviously we hit it on the mark. Like we went on that episode and we said, Ryan, she's going to make a big impact. We could see it from the highlights, and sometimes it's hit or miss, right? You get these players from bigger school. Don't mistake yourself, Ryan. Sometimes you get the big name players. You think that they're going to make such a big impact. And obviously in UConn, the standard is to win a national title, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. All right. So and you have to question how you have to balance it out, man. Is it worth going after one of the big names, especially a graduate student, a senior, when you only have 1 year left with them, right? Is it worth going with the big name that's only a sophomore? I like how you bring up the one player that's a sophomore, and then a younger player, a graduate student. But then you have to take into consideration, or are we going to dig? And I'm sure the front office is looking. The UConn Huskies looking into that right now, as far as filling in, whether that's a guard, a forward, a center, looking to see, can they hit again from a smaller school and bring in not another Lou Lopez Seneschal, not necessarily the same year graduate student, not necessarily at her position, but just overall, can you hit on another player like that, where a lot of other schools are not even aware that she's able to transfer to another school?
Yeah, and I think it's probably more likely, in my opinion, that UConn does grab a transfer from a smaller school like Fairfield, where Lou did come from,
Oh, that's
possibly
interesting.
not from
Okay.
a Power Five conference school that
All right.
everybody knows who she is. So, but I mean, anything's possible. I
Do
just
you
can't
think do you think that that's anything to do with you saying that, with just specifically because this is UConn, the great coaching staff? So in other words, Lou Lopez Seneschal, not saying that she wasn't playing well at Fairfield, but so you're basically saying these smaller named players, they come to UConn, and specifically UConn brings out the best in them. So it doesn't have to be a big name player.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think sometimes the case is just a lot of these schools overlook the smaller schools, and they don't really pay attention to, I mean, even players that come from different countries. We see it on UConn that the starting five had players from all different countries. So that just goes to show how Gino and everybody on UConn that has to do it with scouting and recruiting, really how well they do their job and just recruiting all of these players. And yeah, I mean, I just think it's a really good possibility that they throw us off with a player that, again, that we've never heard of, that does come from a smaller school, but has put up big numbers. And whether that's another graduate or a senior, or it could even be a sophomore like Lauren Betts, that's only transferring after 1 year. So we'll just have to see. But definitely some exciting times. But UConn does only have one scholarship open for this upcoming season, so obviously they can only get one player. But I'm definitely expecting them to get at least obviously one player, and I'm definitely expecting that to be a big paint inside presence, that they can replace with Dorka Juhas.
and you look up some of the bigger names in even D2 schools, and you're talking about Emily Weekly, Ariel Jones, Brooke Olson are the top three right here that I see. We wish that we had that ability to actually just lay it all out on the line and predict, yeah, she's coming to UConn, Ryan. But obviously, they're better at their job than we are predicting. So we'll leave it up to them to figure this out. We can't wait to hear from you guys, though, to see what you think. Leave your comments in the section below in this video and tell us what you think, whether UConn should go after a big name player or a smaller school again, like Lou Lopez Seneschal came from. And again, some of the smaller schools, Ryan, man, boy, can they put themselves on the map in a heartbeat, just like Lou Lopez showed up not only for UConn, but she showed up and she made sure that she let everybody know where she came from, right? Where she was, where she transferred from. With that said, I'll leave it with the bigger names. I mean, I'm like you. I would like to see, I mean, obviously, you talk about guards, forwards and centers. Forwards and centers, obviously, being the being the position of need the most after Dorka Uhas is gone, because you can rely on Aaliyah Edwards a lot. But think about it. I mean, that's part of the game, Ryan, is foul trouble. And obviously, we talked about the players losing energy so much this past season. And when you, hopefully, we're not dealing with this injury story injury story all over again. But when you talk about injuries, man, that again, you just can't, in my opinion. Aaliyah Edwards is going to show up. I think she really will, but you cannot just rely on one big body in the paint all season long. And I think everybody obviously knows that. That's why we received so much intake on the last video. I'm going with Lauren Betts and my top two, Anissa Morrow. Anissa Morrow and Lauren Betts. If they can reach out to one of them, and obviously I'd actually like to see, just because of Morrow being a junior and then Betts being a sophomore, if they can actually talk them into staying there and even into a graduate senior year. Can you imagine, like you said, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting, not taking anything away from Paige Beckers, but at the same time, when you expect to be losing her after this season, even though she's point guard, that'll put UConn on the map for many more years to come if they get a hold of one of these players that is not a graduate student.
Yeah, because we have talked about how the past couple of years, it definitely has been a struggle for UConn to get a big paint inside presence, and for them to recruit, some of these top forwards and centers, definitely bring in a lot more guards in this season and the next season as well, already for 2025 even. But obviously bringing Dorka in for 2 years from Ohio State, that was a huge move, and Dorka turned out to be such a good player for this team. So, I mean, yeah, obviously the two big players are Lauren Betts and Anissa Morrow. I don't know what I'd do if I see the news on my phone about UConn getting one of those. I don't know what I'd do then, but that would be absolutely incredible. But yeah, it would be amazing if we see Lauren Betts in a UConn uniform for 3 years. And I mean, we talk about it so much, how you can never have enough depth as well. I don't want to keep talking about or mentioning the injuries. I hope we don't have to talk about injuries at all this season, if possible. But like we've learned the past 2 seasons, you can never have enough depth. So it would be incredible if UConn can bring a really talented forward or senior to UConn this season.
All right, that's on. Here I go again on my own. Here we go with comments. All right, because B Rorick, he goes, Phil, here you go again. You said on Listen Up that in your own opinion, Dorka should have been drafted in the first round. So who should have replaced that was drafted in round 1? I mean, to be honest with you, Ryan, any player except for Aaliyah Boston, right? Except for Aaliyah Boston. I mean, I don't know. Well, I think it's more safe to talk about that midway through the WNBA season or after it's all said and done, because we really don't know how the first round picks are really going to show up. And it's hard to tell because you don't even want to necessarily put your focus on just 1 year, because like you said, Ryan, with them adjusting to college, to WNBA, 1 year, I don't think you can measure a young lady's success in the WNBA after just 1 year.
Yeah, and I definitely think, I mean, there's a lot more players that definitely deserve to be drafted in the first round. I mean, Alexis Morris, Bree Beal were two late second round picks. Ashley Jones to the Wings as well. I think she probably could have gone further up, but the WNBA draft is so unique because obviously there's not that many teams and there's only 3 rounds, so it's very hard, I would imagine, for these teams to try to select what players they want because there's so many talented players coming in, but you don't have that many picks or rounds to select them in. So, but I'm definitely glad Dorka got drafted where she
Sure.
did go to Minnesota, and Sylvia Fowles is retired. I apologize for that one because ESPN did not update their roster, so we can blame.
Wow, you're putting them on the spot.
We can blame ESPN for that one, but I'm sure Dorka's going to do amazing in Minnesota, but I definitely agree. She could have definitely won in the first round.
I mean, like, if you do obviously go by the draft and how well players are and how poor their playing style is. I mean, if you do go by, all right, they're all first round picks, they're all going to be legendary players, right? So if you do go by that storyline, I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, Ryan, is it, because I would think so. It really doesn't matter. You can't win, give or take. So, I respect Dorka a lot. And I said she should have been taken first round. I believe she has that first round talent. But what do you want me to sit here and say, that she should have been the last pick in the WNBA draft? Now how does that sound?
Yeah, and in my opinion, I always say about, not only the WNBA draft, but just with all the other drafts in every sport, I really don't think it matters where each player gets drafted, as long as you get the opportunity, and pick to a team, and you show up every day and do your job and continue to put in the work. I believe anything is possible for any player. So I think a lot of the times we always focus on, obviously the first pick is obviously so big, and whoever goes in the first round, but definitely don't sleep on the second and third rounders and all the late round draft picks as well.
Dorka was the second best center in the draft class after Boston. I don't feel bad she was drafted that low, but I believe among all draftees, she is the one who fit the most since Link lost their center Sylvia in retirement. Yeah, that's very true, Ryan. I can't wait to see Dorka's future. We talk about not only just their rookie season, but years to come, because we expect, why would you sit here and say, well, Ryan, we expect them to get just more worse down the stretch in their playing career? No, we expect them to get better and better every season.
Yeah, and I definitely expect that out of Dorka. Like I said in the draft video, what makes her so unique is obviously her 3-point shot and her ability to stay outside the paint. I'm sure she'll learn a lot in Minnesota. A lot of great players that play in Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think for Dorka, she definitely has the talent and the ability to definitely develop and grow into a much better player. And I definitely think she will in Minnesota.
All right, Ryan, we will leave it right there. And I will see you hopefully before the season in review. But if not, we will be back on Thursday. Do not miss that episode, as a very special guest makes her appearance for the second time on Listen Up. Ryan, enjoy your weekend.